The derivative of a function describes the function's instantaneous rate of change at a certain point. In this chapter, we are going to determine how to find a derivative of a function. But before that, let us get to know the basic rules of differentiation that will be applied as we go along.
Rule number 1. The constant rule. The derivative of a constant is 0.
Rule number 2, the power rule. If f of x equals x to the power of n, where n, then the derivative of f of x is equals to the derivative of nx of x. Rule number 3, the constant multiple rule. If f of x equals khx, where k is the constant, then the derivative of f of x is equals to the derivative of kh of x.
Rule 4. The sum rule. If f of x equals g of x plus h of x, where g and h are differentiable functions, then the derivative of f of x equals the derivative of g of x plus the derivative of h of x.
Rule number 6, the quotient rule. The quotient rule says that the derivative of the quotient is the denominator times the derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator, all divided by the square of the denominator.
First, we are given the equation y equals 6x cubed minus x over 10 minus 20x. To differentiate this equation, notice that the equation is a rational function. This gives us the idea that we can differentiate this equation using the quotient rule. Again, the rule states that the derivative of fraction having as its denominator the square of the original denominator as the numerator. The denominator times the derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator. To remember this easily, to find the derivative of an equation using the quotient rule is just simply low d high minus high d low over low squared. To differentiate this, first let us find the derivative of both the numerator and the denominator. So the derivative of 6x cubed minus x is just simply 18x squared minus 1. The derivative of 6x cubed minus x is found via the power rule. And then the derivative of the denominator is just negative 20. Again, the derivative of a constant is 0 and the derivative of negative 20x is negative 20 via power rule. Now we have the derivatives of both the numerator and denominator. We can perform the chant low d high minus high d low over low squared. So this gives us the equation 10 minus 20x, which is low, which is found in the denominator, times the derivative of high or the numerator, which is 18x squared minus 1, minus high, which is 6x cubed minus x, times the derivative of low or the denominator, which is negative 20 over low squared, which is the square of quantity 10 minus 20x. Now all that's left to do is to simplify. 10 times 18x squared is 180x squared minus 10 times negative 1 is 10 minus 20x times 18x squared, which is 360x cubed, plus 20x, since negative 20x times negative 1 is positive 20x. Note that there is a negative sign, so before we multiply 6x cubed minus x and negative 20, we distribute the negative sign first. Negative times positive 6x cubed is negative 6x cubed, and negative times negative x is positive x. Now we can multiply. Negative 20 times negative 6x cubed is plus 120x cubed, and negative 20 times positive x is minus 20x. All in all, we have 180x squared minus 10 minus 360x cubed plus 20x plus 120x cubed minus 20x over the square of quantity 10 minus 20x. Next, we combine common terms. Negative 360x cubed plus 120x cubed is equal to negative 240x cubed plus 180x squared. Cancel out 20x and negative 20x, leaving us with negative 10 all over quantity of 10 minus 20x squared. Next, we factor out 10 on both sides of the equation, and this will give us 10 times negative 24x cubed plus 18x squared minus 1. And for the denominator, we have 100 times quantity negative 2x plus 1 squared. Next, we cancel out the common factors, which is 10, giving us negative 24x cubed plus 18x squared minus 1 all over 10 times quantity negative 2x plus 1 squared. Next, we take out negative 1. This gives us 24x cubed minus 18x squared plus 1 all over 10 times quantity negative 2x plus 1 squared. Therefore, dy over dx is negative 24x cubed minus 18x squared plus 1 all over 10 times quantity negative 2x plus 1 squared. And this is how you find the derivative of an equation using the quotient rule. Remember, use the quotient rule when the equation is a rational function. This rule is when the derivative of a function is equal to the denominator times the derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator, divided by the square of the denominator. To remember this easily, low d high minus high d low over low squared.